We all met terrible people at times, and sometimes the overwhelming emotions that accompany us cannot help but be conquered. Either at work or in a social scenario, we will inevitably find challenging characters. Nobody likes to make angry-driven decisions. Nobody likes to navigate the day while being driven by irritating and upsetting emotions. But there are those people who just push our buttons. The process of wrath is inherently human, but managing a level to which we can overcome this offers us the ability to guide our conduct in unneeded conflict. Stoicism and wrath. In dealing with hard people, Stoicism's ancient philosophy can give us an abundance of knowledge and wisdom. Stoicism is an ancient school of philosophy founded around the beginning of the 3rd century BC by Zeno of Citium in Athens. The philosophy is really straightforward and practical. Stoic philosophy deals with conquering and managing negative emotions by addressing the problems we control. Stoic philosophers explored how to deal with anger and disagreement in detail. Seneca, a great Roman Stoic and statesman, actually authored a complete work called On Anger and Truth. Stoics wanted to improve their ideas and conduct, live honestly and meet with inner strength, the unpredictability of life. Stop dwelling on others' shortcomings. It is stupid to strive to escape the faults of others. They're unavoidable. Try to escape from your own. Marcus Aurelius Marcus. Concentrate exclusively on what you can control. The heart of Stoicism is looking in and trying to remain in control of your own ideas and actions. The concept reminds us that you cannot influence external circumstances, no matter how much agony or concern you throw on them. Irrespective of careful planning and rehearsals, plans can and often can still go awry. We don't really control much. We don't control what occurs to us or around us, and we don't control our own bodies in full. You will not receive the promotion, the traffic is going to slow down your journey, your flight is being delayed, and you will become sick. You truly can't control all these things. Nobody is different, their speech and acts are happenings that are external, uncontrollable. The instant we cut this principle for me, we can't control everything I remember. During the last year of John's PhD, he had been assigned with educating and supervising someone. He was enthusiastic about the outlook he had finally learned and experienced enough to teach someone else and to help supervise his project. It was a fresh and interesting task. As time went on, and teaching went on, he noticed this person would not listen to him, no matter what he did, or how he presented things. Despite a lack of expertise and experience, they would intentionally contravene his counsel. Indignation and frustration that went through his veins each time they asked a question, only to ignore the response. Every arrogant statement that passed strengthened his ire. And he realized it then. He can't make them listen. He could not make them learn. He could not let them learn. These activities were not controlled by him. His own behavior was all he could manage. For him, this meant that he could better teach ideas and focus on any knowledge gaps. It meant that he had to cease dissecting all actions that pointed out that his efforts had fallen on the surface. He could manage how he too had some notions. He had to stop unraveling this person's character inwardly. Instead of focusing on other people's faults, seek to correct your own. Their worsening is not deliberate. One of the most common things furious people might hear is the cry of injustice. It's not fair, how could they make me do that? The trouble is, all this presumes that the people are focused on you. Do you know how many times this is actually the case? Nearly never. People are so thoroughly embedded in their own agenda, emotions and plans that you and your feelings are not considering them. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius examined this eloquently and gave us 2 crucial messages. Say first thing to you in the morning, I meet people today who are intrusive, ungrateful, aggressive, traitorous, nasty and unsocial. But I have seen that the nature of the good is right, the nature of the wicked is wrong, and that the offender's nature itself is like mine, not a parentage of blood or seed, but a sharing of the same intellect, the same divine fragment. Marcus Aurelius Marcus. We all know that it is inevitable in our life to meet problematic people. Marcus admits this frankly. Marcus doesn't, however, recognize that these ungrateful, aggressive, trailful, malevolent, unsocial people's activities are directed against him. Instead, it blames its misconduct to ignorance. It does not behave because it lacks the knowledge it has. When someone in your sight does something false, this assessment is based on your knowledge. If a person does not have the same information or knowledge that you have, it is unlikely that they will reach the same conclusions about what is right and what is wrong. However, Marcus knows he's not infallible, and can be ignorant too. I reflected that the offender's nature is similar to mine. Think about it, how frequently do you offend or damage another person? How many times have you deliberately followed someone else's baiting or taunting? People are fundamentally social beings, with various evolutionary processes built in that enable and encourage us to work together. Regardless of how unpleasant or troubling someone is, that is not, generally, their purpose. Rarely do we return to the idea of managing our own thoughts and behaviors, where this is their aim. None of them can injure me, since no one is going to infect me with their mistakes. Nor can I be furious with or dislike my kinsman. We were born for cooperation, like feet, hands, eyelids, upper and lower tooth rows. Working against each other is therefore contrary to nature. Rage or rejection is opposition. Marcus Aurelius Marcus. Nothing outside, including people's acts, can damage our minds. Only by enabling someone else to change or distort our own perceptions can we do this for ourselves. Even if you meet someone who can pull your mind, you can opt to let it go by regulating your inner monologue and adhere to your own moral and ideals. I think that's what our mother calls raising above. Just say what it takes, because most of what we say and do is not vital. Ask yourself, is this necessary at all times? Marcus Aurelius Marcus. This lesson is probably something you already know. We are all conscious of the risk of saying something we're going to regret. Words said in the heat of the moment usually make us even harder. When the outrageous fire roars within us, though, it is hard not to try the final word. It can be difficult to modify your language if you perceive arrogance, aggressiveness, or malice. The most essential thing we can do is to remember the effects of our actions. As our thoughts shape our actions, our acts somewhat shape the history of our life. Before we talk, evaluate whether the words that we are about to say can help the situation. Given the importance of our speech, we can achieve less detrimental results. Ask yourself before you say, is this necessary? Pause. Is that needed? Before you utter a word, make sure your words are important and necessary. Take into account the reasons behind what you feel like to say. Feeling like winning is of little value. However, we already know this. But taking a moment to analyze this issue actively is essential to avoid emotions that overcome our ideas and behaviors. I start talking only when I know what I'm going to say isn't better left unsaid. Cato. Don't feel threatened with critique. If anybody says that a certain person talks ill of you, don't excuse your words, but reply, he was unaware of my other defects, otherwise he wouldn't have stated them on his own. Epictetus. I am not convinced that Epictetus's comment was meant to be funny, but I find some wit in his proposed retort. He was unaware of my other faults, otherwise he alone wouldn't have addressed them. Here, Epictetus nods with reverence that we all have faults and work to do. We're a difficult person to someone else. Defective, uneducated, and annoying. Epictetus supplies me with a wonderfully balanced mood and self-confidence. He wants us all to acknowledge and accept our shortcomings in the face of criticism. Be open and conscious of ourselves instead of hiding or denying. If we are active in our constructive examination and improvement, then we will not find ourselves as good. If you enjoyed the content of this video, click the subscribe button so you can receive more content like this every week.